I apologize for that. We have a lot on our agenda, so we'll go ahead and get started and call the meeting to order. For all of you that are joining us by Zoom, if you would, when we're voting, just please keep your camera on, and otherwise, just please keep your computer on mute. And if you're voting, just be sure when you're voting that you are a board member. I would like to recognize some special guests. We have Mark Lord here with us. He's from Congressman Brett Guthrie's office. Thank you for being here. And also we have Shane Wilson. He is from Edmonson County, and he will be joining our board very soon. So thank you for joining us, Shane. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to John for his opening remarks.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. And good morning and welcome to everybody. It's hard to believe it's already April. Years flying by. I'll probably sound like a broken record, but you know, the way that we organize these meetings is around our strategic goals. We have 4 of them. And what we've been doing for the last few years is April is always the month where we spend a little extra time focused on strategic goal number 1, which is our support to employers. So we'll touch on all the strategic goals later this morning. We'll take care of a little bit of business first, and then we'll get into those strategic goals. But we're going to spend most of our time on how we're trying to support employers, you know, so far this year and for what's to come. And something that I'm going to do that's a little bit different is when we're in that section, I'm going to pause and ask for input from board members on how we can better engage employers. I mean, I feel like we're doing a pretty good job, but I know we can do better. And so I'm previewing that to you now. So you have a few minutes to think about it once we get into that. And I say, help, I need your help. Yes. So, and moving on, welcome to Shane. Shane's going to formally join our organization. He'll be the board member that represents Edmonson County. We'll get him officially approved here in a few weeks, but he's graciously joining us today. And then I do want to take a moment to recognize Bob Biltz. He's been a board member with us for, I think, since 2018.
Yeah, this is my 3rd term, halfway through the 3rd term.
So Bob's just retired in the last 2 weeks, and he's going to have to depart our board. But Bob has been a very, very engaged, thoughtful, inquisitive board member. He keeps me on my toes. And I love it. And Bob, I think, has perfect attendance. I don't think you've ever missed a board meeting.
I don't think so.
Wow. Which is incredible. And so I just want to say thank you and wish you the very best in retirement and
Hope for a long and healthy one.
yes, absolutely. You've earned it. But again, thank you, Bob. Okay, that concludes my opening remarks, and we will go to agenda item number 3.
The first order of business this morning is to approve the February 8th board minutes. Board members should have received and read and reviewed the minutes already. Are there any comments regarding the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve?
Robin will make a motion.
Thank you,
I'll
Robin.
second it.
Have a second.
Beverly seconds.
Is that Teresa? Who's that?
Beverly.
Beverly? Okay. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. So our next agenda item is to go over the executive committee updates from March 14th. So we first tackled the amendment to the dislocated worker grant. That was an agenda item that we tabled during our February board meeting. We wanted to clarify that policy amendment. So the executive committee took this matter up again, and we approved a motion to amend the tornado relief policy to limit temporary housing assistance to $1,000 maximum limit. And the permanent housing assistance is available up to $2,500. We're going to talk about this a little bit later, I guess, right?
We're not.
We're not. Okay, so there it is. So if you have any questions,
It's a done deal.
jump in. Okay. Okay, so we're not going to talk about it anymore. Okay, so John informed us that the lease on the board office here was up for renewal, and there was a verbal agreement to renew at our current rate of $16 per square foot. So regarding the external audit search, John let us know that 2 of 3 bids have been received, and he is going to provide an update on that momentarily. John also provided us an update on the WIOA mid-year contract review, and he'll also cover this in our next agenda item. And under the grant and budget updates agenda item, John informed the executive committee of several new grants and funding opportunities that are being pursued. And lastly, the executive committee has John to present his goals for 2024, and these goals were reviewed and approved by our committee. And that's all I have for the executive committee updates.
Okay, next, all right, this is over to me. So, we are kind of entering the window to renew our WIOA direct service contract. At our previous board meeting, we teed this up and we talked about, the mid-year review that had been done. And out of that mid-year review, I had asked, the board to consider that we really needed to add a 3rd full-time career advisor to the career team staff. And that we needed a career team to develop a quality assurance plan and present it to us by April 1st. And so the board back in February said, yes, they voted that. They made that motion and approved it. And so that brings us to today. Let's go forward one. So career team has met both conditions. They have selected Haley Rhodes to start as a career advisor. She was supposed to start on April 1st, but her background check had not come through. And so she then was supposed to start on April 8th and the background check had not come through. So now we think she's going to start on April 15th. So that, so the career advisor has been identified, offered, we just got to get the background check processed. And then the quality assurance plan has been submitted. Matt submitted that to me in mid-February or mid-March. We kind of went back and forth on it a little bit, and that got finalized and submitted. A copy of that quality assurance plan was provided in the materials, your read ahead materials for this meeting. It's nearly a 10-page plan. It's pretty detailed. So from my perspective, the quality assurance plan is more than satisfactory, and I am satisfied with it, that the conditions have been met that we put upon them. And just zooming out from that, I mean, this contract has gone well. We do well in our audits. We do well in compliance. So there's really no concerns on my end. We go forward one. So my request to the board today is to let's go ahead and approve the WIO contract for an additional year. And the motion would be to extend the contract for the time period of July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025.
This is Teresa. I'd like to make a motion to approve for that period that was just mentioned.
I'll second that motion. This is Beverly.
All right, I have a motion by Teresa, and Beverly, I think TJ beat you on that.
That's fine.
Sorry, Bev.
Doesn't matter.
That's good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
All right, we'll go next agenda item. We're clicking right through next order of business. Contract for external audit. So a little background on this. We by law, as a publicly funded entity, we have to have our financial records and practices audited each year. Back in February, I asked the board to, give me the ability or authorize me the ability to negotiate and enter into a contract with a CPA firm to conduct this audit. That motion was made and carried. And so after that meeting, I sent out bid request to 3 CPA firms: Sherry Beckhart Advisory, Carr Riggs and Ingram, and Taylor Polson and Company. And each was also provided a copy of last year's audit, just to give them a sense of the scope of work and what the requirements were. And as a point of reference for everybody, last year's audit cost was $22,000. So shortly after I sent that out, I got a call from Cherry Beckard. Now, this is the company that was formerly MCM CPAs. MCM was the company out of Lexington that had done our audit the last 4 years and that we had really developed a good working relationship with. But they called me up and said, hey, now that we're Cherry Beckard, our new corporate policy is that we can't do an audit for anything less than $30,000. And they were like, yeah, we're pretty sure that's too much, that exceeds what you're willing to pay. And I said, you're correct. I don't want to pay $30,000 for an audit. So we just mutually agreed that, hey, don't bother sending in a bid. Well, subsequently, I received a bid from Carr Riggs and Ingram, and their bid was for $35,000 in year 1, 36 in year 2, 37 in year 3. And then lastly, I received a bid from Taylor Polson and Company, and their bid was for $18,000 and with an agreement to keep that price in place for an additional 3 years. So that's where we are right now. I've not made any movements, but the way ahead is I am going to move forward with Taylor Paulson and Company, and I'm going to structure it as a 1-year contract with an option to renew 2 additional years. That way, Taylor Paulson, they're going to be new to us, and I want to make sure the first year goes well, and I want to have the flexibility if it doesn't go well, that we can either renew it or we can go out and find somebody else to do it in the following year. But that's my plan for moving forward. Any questions or concerns? All right.
Okay, our next agenda item is our financial report. Good morning, Holly.
Good morning. Hi. Financial information is what I am presenting today is through March, which is the third quarter of our fiscal year ends. Can't believe the time already kind of flew that fast that we are presenting, and very soon we'll be closing our fiscal year that it starts in July and ends in June. That is kind of coincide with our contracts with the state as well. So the first column, we have the board approved budget, what we $2.9 million right now, what was approved back at that time. And year to date, which is the 9 months worth of presentation for the straight line basis, that's $2.2 million. And we have spent or owned 1.7 million and 3,449. One of the things, and I kind of remind myself as well, that the cost, you see a big variance here, and you will say, well, why we are kind of behind? So all of our contracts are cost reimbursement contracts. So we have to spend the cost to own the revenue as well. And up to this point, when luckily with whatever the money we have spent, we own 100%. So there's no risk for not spending the money. But it's some of the contracts started late. And what have you. So that's kind of driving some of the variance at this point. But if you look at the entirety of this presentation, the expenses are the same way, that our expenses are the favorable variance with the $500,000. And one of the things that we have the tornado grant that we got extension through December 24. So that's a big amount, and we kind of spending, but it's still on not that pace and what have you kind of. So that's one of the driver for that we've been kind of behind this point. And then you can see the sub grantee, because they have the bulk of the tornado grant from us. So it's driving the deficit. I mean, not the deficit. There's no deficit at this point. Whatever we build, we earn the cash wise, so there's no cash risk. But funds wise, because of the timing, we're a little behind on that thing, but I don't see any risk for not spending at the end of the contract. It's just some of the timings that we are a little behind of some of the contracts or what have you. That's kind of driving a variance up to this point, but no risk for not spending the money, no risk for collecting the funds. That's all pretty much matters for us to make sure that whatever we spend, we collect 100% from the state. Any questions, any concerns on this?
If there aren't any questions or comments, do I have a motion to approve the financial report?
So moved.
Thank you, Bob. Do you have a second?
I'll second. This is Rebecca.
Thank you, Rebecca. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. We're cruising. Okay, so we're moving into the strategic goals part of this presentation that you guys are familiar with, and we're going to start with the aspirational goals that we had articulated back in February. These are the kind of the big, bold goals that we set for the year that we weren't sure. They were aspirational. We were going to swing for it and see what we got. So this first one, this first one, I'm happy to report is looking very favorable. So just to recap, starting last fall, all the workforce directors in the state started approaching the General Assembly about the idea of getting some dedicated youth funding appropriated for two audiences, high school youth and disconnected youth. Disconnected youth are defined as 16 to 24-year-olds who are neither working nor in school. We have never done this. Workforce boards have never gotten state money. And really we were largely unknown by state legislature. They just really weren't aware that who we are and the work that we do. And that's kind of that was a statewide. But we began that just kind of approach last fall and kept at it and kept at it and kept at it. And as of today, HB 1, the language with that House bill was released I guess in the last 2 weeks. We have a line item in there. There'll be a big meeting tomorrow, and then it'll be finalized next week. So I don't want to jinx myself and say that we got it, but it's looking very, very favorable that we're going to get some money. And I'll go into more detail on that when we get into the financial portion of this here in a minute, but it's looking very favorable. And then revised workforce intelligence, I will also go into that. We haven't met that yet, but we got a plan, and I'll go into that here momentarily.
All right, so me?
I think that's you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I hope all of us have got our vision back from looking at the eclipse too much the other day. But I want to welcome you guys, and again, just show you guys the rundown of how we set these goals up. And we've now entered our second year of how we are looking at certain data elements. So the number of business engagements, that's pretty much any kind of two-way contact that we're having with businesses. So you can see our year-to-date total there, and our goals are there in red. We also started to track last year how many instances we are referring candidates to employers. And so you can see we're really well along in our goal there, and we'll break out a little bit more about where those are coming from here in a moment. Hiring events, we're on pace with those, and we'll be talking here in just a moment about the plan for the year with our events. Two big ones in the works right now. One that we're more taking the lead and very heavily involved in. And again, we'll be previewing that one for you, and we're excited about that. Several of you on the call are also helping or joining remotely or helping us with that too. And then, we'll be talking too about those employer data and tactic presentations. And then you can see we just kind of color code some things. Green, sort of, yellow, orange, we're not started yet on some other just project-based things that we're doing. And so the thing that's called a boot camp, we'll go into more detail about that here in a moment as well. So I want to let, well, that's right, before Jake and Bianca go. So if anybody caught WBKO last night, this should have been featured because they came here yesterday and interviewed Laura Torres, who is our specialist for this new grant. But this is something that we introduced last board meeting, that Laura had been hired. We've gotten this grant for multiple years. We need to get about 3 employer partnerships this year and 4 the next couple of years. But this is basically where we can help facilitate some on-site ESL and training opportunities, get real creative with it. But it's specific to those that have a refugee status. And so that's been pretty much the biggest hangup, because we've had a couple of companies that we were about to launch with by now this month. And we had a lack of qualified candidates out of those 2 partners that we had. We had a lot of interest, definitely the employers were very interested, and this is a model that I would say is meant to kind of provide some training, training wheels that are meant to come off. And so Laura would be kind of the training wheels in her role to coordinate and steward everything, but put the pieces and building blocks together, and then walk away and show the employers an example of how this can turn on and work for not just refugee employees, but any type of maybe limited English or folks that come from backgrounds where maybe they don't have they've been hired, but they need more to get started. And maybe if the company can do something on site instead of asking them to go off site to get those skills. So that's what we're really trying to do. But we've gotten in front of 13 companies already. So when we talk about our employer engagement, I mean, this has been a very strategic thing to try to do. And we continue to have a couple of calls a week with employers. So pretty much the ask to you all, as we'll have here in a moment as well, is if you have any ideas. And I want to thank Mr. Anderson, because I know from the last board meeting, he prompted Laura for a meeting, and we were able to talk to him and some other colleagues there in Monroe County about this opportunity. That's exactly what we need, is just introductions and leads just to get this opportunity in front of more employers, in hopes that we can get the sufficient number of employees engaged and have some really good outcomes from it. So. But yeah, so out of the two that we almost have, one is definitely going to be delayed, and the other one just, we're gonna touch base and just make sure that they've got more candidates later that are going to qualify for the program. But these have to be folks that are already working. So the amazing thing is Anna, with the work and volume of people that she's seeing, can sort of pre-fill some of the candidates. So if they don't have the ones that qualify, we can try to help refer candidates that do qualify, and in hopes of coming in shortly after and getting them trained. And we had one employer yesterday that said, oh, well, we would love to have people hired and immediately put them into this kind of training. And that was music to my ears to hear them say that, because that's getting these folks a job and immediately getting them access to training, which we want to see happen. So any quick questions about that or discussion? That's just pretty much a quick update. We'll keep giving you guys update as the year goes on. All right, now I'll turn it over to Jake and Bianca for just activities with hiring events year to date and what's going on the rest of the year.
Good morning, everybody. So I'll go ahead and touch on the hiring events schedule that we have completed thus far. We shared a little bit with this in February, but we still had a couple of events that we wanted to finalize. So we wanted to revisit this with all of you now that it's done. I did want to mention just a couple of themes that we have for this year. So it is no secret that we go to some locations that are a bit smaller, of course, in Warren County and Glasgow and those sorts of things. But really the beauty of Bianca and I being in this role for the last 3 years is that we've really tried to find locations that are highly valuable to job seekers. So we've, for the last 3 years, tried to find the right locations. And I think we've done that thus far. And so we're going to try to go to those same locations this year. We definitely go to a lot of libraries, a lot of central locations to ensure that job seekers are able to find us easily. It also is valuable to day of walk-ins. So we've definitely seen success with going to those locations, and we try to mimic that in each of our counties. The second thing, another thing that we have is we really try to work closely with community partners. It's, Bianca and I are working in 10 counties, but we don't know your county better than you do many times. So we try to find community partners who do really know the county well. Because she's top of mind, we're coming there very soon. Amy Smith Thomas is a good example of that. When we go to Butler County, we've been with her for the last 3 years in her facility. She's very, very helpful when it comes to marketing the event, getting Bianca and I in front of large crowds to be able to market that event, finding the job seekers who need jobs. And that really creates a successful event. And so we try to mimic that in all of our 10 counties by finding community partners who are really valuable to us. And we've built those relationships over time. So those are our themes for this year. I'll let Bianca talk about some of the successful events that we've had thus far in 2024, and then we'll take your questions if you have any.
Okay, so like you said, so far we've had our Monroe County Talent Tuesday. We've had our Logan County. We have also helped out with Fitzgerald's Trailers. I'm not for sure if you guys are familiar, but they were a new manufacturing that had came to Monroe County. So we actually spent 2 days there on site helping them do on-site tours and pre-screening. And so they are actually about to be starting their hiring process now. So we don't know about how many, but they were able to get a lot to where they are going to do their first session and will have enough for their second and third session as well. So that was very successful. We have also visited SKYCTC. And so we were able to have our career fair there and we assisted them. We had about 5 employers plus on each of those different campuses that day. So that was very successful as well for the students. And then, of course, we had our Kentucky Career Center, the Warren County one, and that one was a huge success. That one had over about 300 job seekers there that day. And that actually happened to be on a day where the weather wasn't even as great. So they wasn't for sure how many was going to show, but it actually was a great turnout. So as you can see, we have some stats over there to your right. So if you guys have any questions, just let us know. And they have switched, so we have our hiring event schedule like Jake has mentioned, so you can take a look at those. We still have a lot of our Talent Tuesdays to go. We still have our one in Barron County with the Hero Center. So we have a few of those to get through. And then we have a huge one that we're going to do in May, our Ready, Set, Hire. So I'm pretty sure somebody's going to talk about that one or.
Coming up, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so any questions about hiring event schedule? It mimics best practices, like Jake was saying, and things we've learned, but tagging with partners is a lot better than us just busting in and saying, we're here. And we've learned the hard way about that. So it really does take word of mouth internally. And then there can be a lot of buzz online. So Leslie would say sharing is caring. And so anybody who shares online, the social media things, definitely gets the word out too that these things are happening. So thank you all. Okay, so I've got this part I just want to say real quick. We mentioned this in our year-end review December meeting, in our year-end review report, that we had developed this resource, but we realized we never really demoed it with you guys. So we started to demo this with employers, but it's been hanging on our newly revamped website since the end of last year. And so we pick up a lot of best practices as we meet with employers, and we constantly hear similar things about who does this and where can I go to get that. And as a WIOA system, we are supposed to be a one-stop system. And that means basically if you came to one of us, you get access to all of us. And that's a little bit hard to do when there's turnover and, you're not really supervising everybody closely all the time. And some people get a little bit, I remember years ago when things launched, some people say, well, that's not my job. I don't have to do your job. That's your job to do that, to tell everybody all the great services and things that are out there. But if you're out here in the world meeting with job seekers and meeting with companies, then most of the time what you hear is, I never knew that existed. And so we don't think that the world knows this resource exists, but we want you guys to know it so that you can, again, get out there and share it. But we've compiled some things, and I'm just going to do a quick demo of the site. This is a Google document, so it's live and easy to update. But we've got it, if the internet will pull up, broken down into these main categories, and then there's a listing here, sort of a directory on the left. So starting out, it's got some advice, some tips. This is best viewed full screen on a computer. This will not work very well at all on a cell phone. It's too much information and everything. But also, we've learned some companies have restrictions about how Google works at their company and using things like Google Sheets. So we do have it in PDF format and can send it out that way. But just who are the players in this space? So we've got ourselves. How about that? We lead with ourselves. But a little opportunity to do a plug here. But this is meant to give direct contact information and links. So our idea is if somebody just got dropped off the planet from Mars and is just new in their HR role or company role, and they don't know what is available in their community or in the region as it pertains to finding talent, that this would be a place that they could go. And so, who are the more public facing entities? Well, obviously the Career Center. We want to give them a local contact. We've got a link here for more information. And obviously Career Team and the types of main programming that they do. So we get through kind of who the providers and all of that is. The business intelligence is basically highlighting Josh Zazak's role and some of the data that exists that's out there, just so that, and some of you guys have used him or used us to find out more about labor market information. So a little section on that. Because hiring events are so popular, we want to let people know about ways that they can plug into hiring events and get help with those. So you can see the myriad of ways that the board and mostly career team takes lead on assisting employers, being available with partners that when they host, being able to do it at the Career Center. And voila, we've got Bianca's name listed right there, so you can immediately plug into her. But I would say the bulk of this resource is about what I would call accessing untapped talent. And this is just all the types of job seekers that we and many of you are focused on serving and supporting. And so we've got the justice involved, fair chance, second chance, all the different words that it has. Plug for Goodwill. They've got an event going on today. Today is what, Chad?
Yes, sir. Second chance day.
Second chance day. So again, employers, and Bob's a great example. I think Bob can probably lead a workshop on this, but you know, it's just like the spookiness factor, like, you know, aren't there some things that, you know, I need to be aware of, or what about what my current employees are going to say if I start, you know, reaching out. That's what we want to show. So I mean, get connected to the partners. These are the providers, Goodwill, Hope House. These are best practices. So don't just take our word for it. These are actual vetted resources, curated resources out there. And then we've got our microleptograph is sort of a main point of contact to plug employers into different resources should they need that. New Americans, obviously we've expanded a lot of our programming. We've picked up a lot of best practices with that. But we want to shine a light on the other providers in our region that work with this population. And again, we want to show best practices. If people need interpretation, document translation services, we want to get them connected to those. If it's even cultural competency training or ESL, you can see the main providers in our region that provide that work and services. And then a few, you know, miscellaneous sorts of categories and things that people can find out more about. The veterans and the different ways to plug in through veterans. So again, I'm not going to just read all of this to you, but it ends basically with other additional resources. So rapid response is something that we don't like to walk into an employer and make an introduction and say, hey, if you ever close, we're here to help you. But you know, if they're at that point and they need to know that this exists, we said it last year, we know companies that look at paying for this kind of service and they don't have to. So we want to make it known that this can be provided, that there can be some immediate response opportunities for them. Tax credits and subsidies, all of the things that exist there. United Ways 211, you guys would know that's an excellent resource. If you don't know where else to turn, you can turn to those types of things. Professional training providers and resources there. So again, we've tried to show, and we end again with our own plug, stay connected to us because we shine a light on these things very often. And if you don't know where else to go, find us online and then we'll get you connected. So while we still have a lot of folks that work very hard to refer to each other and a lot of great formal programs that do that, if nobody else knows where to start, hopefully this can provide sort of a glorified Google search result, as I call it. So, but it's been curated. So it's better than a Google search result because that's got paid ads and it's got all kinds of rabbit holes on it. And also some dead ends of websites that don't work very well. And so this was just personally put together. It's live. If you think of anything else, let us know. We'll get it connected. And so again, help us get the word out that this exists on our website. It's on our employer tab. And then if anybody has any trouble getting access to it, we can again send them the PDF, but the PDF is live on there as well. And I'm done talking because that was a lot.
It's excellent.
It was a lot. And I'll just say, Brian put this together, so he deserves a lot of credit for curating this and putting it all together. It was an impressive feat. So, and we're glad that we can provide this resource to, you know, our constituents in South Central Kentucky.
Yep. So, but yeah, it's just trying to highlight the work that everybody does, which is what we're supposed to do as a board anyway. So this is just sort of a digital way to do that and get people to the source. Because I think sometimes we've all had those doors that don't open when you knock, and job seekers experience that on a regular basis, but we know employers can do that as well. And they've got limited time and we just want to get them straight to the source as quickly as possible.
Brian, I appreciate that. That's something that I think we've needed for a long time, and I'm really excited about it. One thing I would like to ask if you can drop in the chat, I don't know if I missed it at the beginning or it was really clear and now I'm confused. How would I reach that Google Doc. So show that one more time,
Okay.
or maybe drop a link. I think it's from our page, but I just missed where you click.
Yep, I'll just put or Leslie, could you put it in there, the actual, like, straight to the employer, page? I think Leslie could probably do that, because I've got several things open on my computer and we'll lose the presentation.
She gave you a thumbs up.
Yes, okay, thank you. Thank you, Gretchen.
Thank you. Yeah, great job.
All right, if we're ready, we'll move on to the next topic. When I was talking about aspirational goals a few minutes ago, we were talking about workforce intelligence presentations, and I said I had a plan, and I do. So, throughout 2023, we went across all 10 counties and got in front of employers, and we really did a data presentation. Josh Zazik really put together some very interesting data for each county, employers in each county. And we got overwhelming positive response from everybody we got in front of. I mean, it was very, very well received. Primary audience was generally HR folks, but it was very well received presentation. And after we wrapped that up and I had a chance to kind of reflect on it, I realized I had a couple of takeaways. One is even though it was very well received, I was like, I don't feel like we're moving the needle. I don't feel like we moved the needle, even though we've provided all this great information. I don't know what we didn't have in those presentations were what I would say were a lot of decision makers. Because we provided, if you look at the data and you look at the trends, the workforce is changing. It is evolving. And we largely are not keeping up. And so that's what we're trying to sound the alarm on and point out. So that said, I started thinking about that. It's like, okay, so this year we want to take this, we want to take it to the next level. We want to do more, get more data, do more analysis, more predictive analysis, pattern analysis, but we want to get this in front of decision makers. So we want to have a very specific presentation to decision makers, which I'm highlighting here. We've got another one, we've got another plan or another format that we'll do again for HR folks. But for decision makers, we really want to get into how is this workforce changing? The workforce you wish you had is not here today, and it's not going to be. There's a different workforce here today, and it's changing. And we want to make sure that business owners and executives and decision makers get the information, and then they can choose what they choose. What they do with the information is up to them. But if you want to keep up in this very changing dynamic workforce and where it's going, you got to get armed with information. So our plan is to do 5 sessions this summer. You see that at the bottom. We're going to host those meetings here. We'll also broadcast them by Zoom. We're going to try to keep those meetings to 1 hour, hour and 15 minutes, be very direct to the point. It's going to be very data driven, very direct, and give decision makers the information they need. And then they can take it and do with it what they will. So anyway, that's a plug. I just wanted to preview that. If there's any questions about that, I'm happy to entertain it. Okay, it's coming. All right, what do we got?
It's frozen. Hold on, there we go.
I'm sorry, I have a quick question. The flyer about those sessions, where could we, like, if we wanted to share that information or sign up for one of the sessions, where will that be
Gretchen,
available?
great question. That is forthcoming. We have not.
Okay,
Leslie has put together a brand for it, but we have not put together a flyer or any sign up just yet.
and when that happens, will that be distributed like through email, or will that be like a link from the board page? We don't know yet.
All the above, and the way I'm thinking about it right now is I don't think I'm going to worry about people signing up for specific sessions. I think it's just going to be come if you can. If you show up, you show up. If you don't, you don't. And we won't worry about who's RSVP'd and who hasn't. We're just going to host the meeting. If we have 3 or we have 30, we're going to do the same presentation. That's how I'm thinking about it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so in my opening remarks, I said I was gonna ask you for help, and so I just want to, what we wanted to do is take a few minutes and kind of tell you what some of, where we feel like we need help with employers and see what kind of feedback you might have for us. So it's, it's no, this is not news, but we routinely have around 7,500 open jobs. We've been fluctuating around that number for the last couple of years, but about 7,500 open jobs per month across the 10-county region. And of course, there's high expectation that our organization helps employers get those jobs filled. And kind of where we are today, we're in a very tight labor market. We're in an evolving labor market, an evolving workforce. And, from my perspective, if you want to work, you're working, right? That's especially true of native Kentuckians. The ones that want to work are working. Our unemployment rate is very, very low. That doesn't mean there's not a lot of people that just aren't participating. There's a lot of people sitting on the sidelines, but that's a different definition than being unemployed. From our vantage point, we have lots and lots of new Americans, re-entry, second chance folks, and military veterans that they're untapped talent. They're a large labor pool, but they're also a harder labor pool to work with and figure out. And the issue from my vantage point is that we still have a lot of employers here that are just hesitant to engage these talent pockets. Let's go to the next. And I know it's hard.
John, if I might say, I think employers, and myself included, are not hesitant to hire new Americans, reentry, second chance, because those people want to work. Okay. And yeah, do you have to make some concessions and accommodations? Yeah. But if you've got somebody who wants to work, you're willing to invest in them. It's that second category that's driving us all nuts, is the native Kentuckians that want to work are working. Well, that leaves the ones that don't want to work. And how do you motivate somebody who doesn't want to work? Money is only so much. It's, how do you instill work ethic?
Rob, I don't disagree with you from where we are, though. We can't, we've got a couple hundred new Americans alone that we can't get placed right now. We need help. The military veteran piece, we've had great feedback on our Kentucky Vet Connect. I tell people it's been a PR success. People are like, man, I really love what you're doing with the Kentucky Vet Connect. But in reality, very few employers have followed up and said, well, I'm actually interested in that guy. Help. I want to, help us get connected with that veteran. So we want to take a look at hiring him. That has not happened hardly at all. And that's very disappointing, because the whole purpose of Kentucky Vet Connect was to spark interest by an employer, make the connection, get them introduced, try to drive a positive employment outcome and bring talent to the region. So people love the profiles that we're building, but we're not connecting. Our success rate on connecting people to employment is very low. And that's disappointing. So here's my question, and this is where, I just would like to, pause for some discussion with our board. Besides, we've talked about the hiring events that we're doing, that we've got scheduled throughout the year that remain very popular, the employer toolkit, the workforce intelligence presentations either that we do. How can we better engage employers and enlist their support, especially around some of these population groups? I am open to suggestions.
Glasgow used to have a HR group that would get together, like all the HR people. And are there still groups like that? Maybe if somehow you could get into that group, because they all, a lot of people will quit one job and then another place. And so the HR directors are really close in contact in each county.
There's 2 SHRM groups in our region, and we usually once or twice a year, somebody in our team does presentation to them. I don't know that if they're smaller, like Barron County focused ones, I don't think that we've had a chance to get in front of them. But we will always we will never turn down the opportunity to get in front of a group like
I'll
that.
have to find out if they still have that, because, you know.
I think those meetings that you're leading are a great way. I'm thinking the stuff that you're going to cover there. I can't imagine an HR person that's responsible for hiring that wouldn't want to go and hear that. And so once you get them there, then maybe you introduce them to this new toolkit page and share with them those resources and, talk about, I'm thinking from my company's standpoint, we have one location that has kind of led the way with New Americans. They have their documents translated. They have some infrastructure ready to accept people that maybe don't speak English. But the other locations, they're willing to have that type of workforce, but they don't know how to, what do we do about our work instructions and our standards? How do we communicate? So I think sometimes it's just they need somebody to say, we'll hold your hand. Here's your resource and we can help you. So maybe, in these meetings, we reinforce that and the military veterans, again, I'm not sure why, those have been some of our best hires, unless there's concerns with relocation. I don't know what the answer is on that, but certainly I think those meetings, and then this group as a board member, every county is represented. Really, we as board members should be getting that word out to the employers that we know of and that we have relationships with. And, maybe if there's some kind of email template that you guys could share with us, and then we could take on some ownership to get that word out. Just some thoughts.
Gretchen, thank you. I appreciate that. That's all.
So I think that.
This is recorded. We're gonna go back and capture all this through the recording.
John?
Yes, Beverly.
Yes, so I just want to get some input on this. And, when you talk about workforce intelligence, I think that's really important for people to know. I recruit for our company, and what I'm finding out in our surveys is that work-life balance is the name of the game.
Beverly, your mic is going in and out a little bit.
Oh, okay. So work-life balance, can you hear me better now?
Yes, yes.
Is the name of the game is what I'm running into with the people that I try to recruit for our company. And as employers, we have to find a way to accommodate these people, or we're not going to have that workforce, especially the Kentuckians, number 2 that we talked about. We're not going to have that until we find a way to give them what they want. They'll just work a job long enough to pay a bill and move on to the next. I don't know how well that came through, but.
I caught it, Beverly, and no, you're exactly right. That's part of the message we preach when we get in front of employers. It's much different to hire an 18 or 20-year-old's expectations in the workforce are vastly different than Gen X or baby boomers who are leaving the workforce, who are retiring out of the workforce. And we use the word accommodation a lot. Employers really have to think about, we're not talking about changing your standards, but you got to think about how do you accommodate, whether it's a different age, whether it's a disability, whether it's limited English. You got to figure out how to make the workforce is more diverse, and you got to figure out how to accommodate some of the diversity of the workforce that's present. Not what you want it to be, it's what it is. I mean,
John, can I speak for a second? It's Amy.
of course.
Okay, I didn't want to interrupt anyone. So with going on, piggybacking on what Beverly said, I teamed up with our superintendent, and we had a Hispanic Fair Day, and it turned out to be pretty fantastic. We had about 20 Hispanics, and we're trying to reach out more to them, because I use the phrase like this all the time. You don't know what you don't know, and you can't help it. And so what we did and found out is when we were there talking to them about all the resources we have with adult ed, the career team, just different things in Butler County, we found out that a lot of them do not speak just Spanish, they speak Chew. And so with that said, I had a student who speaks English, Spanish, and Chew, and she was with me that day. And we were wondering why they weren't asking questions. Well, she, come over to me, she said, I don't think they understand. So I'm just throwing this out to you all. When our translator was speaking in Spanish, they just nodded their heads. But when Isabella started speaking in Chew, they were very interactive. So, we didn't know that. So we figured that out too. So sometimes that language barrier makes a huge difference. And now now that we have a buy-in because the Hispanics are, they're buying in, they're wanting to come here now. We have many Hispanics that come in and out of this classroom needing help with different things because we've built that relationship now with that meeting. So I just wanted to throw that out there because it does matter. Building relationships helps a lot with the new Americans and the Hispanic population. So.
Thank you, Amy.
I think we've come a long way in workforce regarding, like, in my time in workforce, like years ago, there weren't a lot of requirements to get a job. If I knew Brian and Brian sent me over to you, you go, oh, Brian, I'll hire you, come on to work, right? I mean, that was kind of how it worked. And then we kind of tightened our standards where, you had to have a clean credit report and you had to have a clean criminal history check and you had to have 10 years experience and you had to pass this assessment and that assessment. And we tightened our reins in many instances with our employers looking to hire qualified candidates. I think we've come back to the middle a little bit where employers have seen over the years that, like, we can't just say no criminal history at all. Now they're lessening those reins a little bit to be able to case by case look at somebody's criminal history to give them an opportunity. So I think we've come a long way. I think we still have a ways to go. I think that in my experience, at times I've had clients or employers who have wanted to hire someone, say, with a criminal history or who is in addiction recovery, but because of the corporate verbiage in their policies, it really is irrelevant what the local folks want to do. If they want to hire, I'm going to use you, if they want to hire Chad, but Chad has this and this on his criminal history and he's in recovery, etc. So, I think educating even at the very upper levels of employers at the national level is imperative to help them really truly understand the workforce needs, say, of our region, if that makes any sense. Because a lot of times, and I'm just throwing out names here but let's say Gretchen, right? And I don't know about their policy, but I'm just saying Gretchen is at the local level and she may go, oh, I really want to hire Chad, but her company's national policy says XYZ, right? So I think, educating is still the key. Education is the key, even at the very top levels, all the way to the local. I think we've done a great job just speaking, but the ESL populations, the New American population, excuse me, let me be appropriate here, the reentry recovery population, I think we've come a long way with those, folks with disabilities. That's another category that wasn't even listed up there, your veteran pops. I still think the educating them on the populations that are available in our local region, how we might be they are viable candidates for the available 7,500 positions. And here's what you can do to make that work, if that makes sense. So, why aren't we engaging those veterans? Well, we have to, I think, get to the bottom of why are we not? I mean, we're going down there, we're recruiting them. They may not have 20 years experience running your particular cut machine, right? But they have many years experience, are willing to work, give them a chance, and I'm gonna guarantee you they're gonna learn how to run that cut machine for you and do a good job. So, but I think sometimes our employers get fixated on, I'm looking for 20 years experience or 10. I don't mean that all employers either. I'm not blanket. I think we've come a long way. I guess everything I'm trying to wrap up is I still think education is key. I think we're doing a good job with all of those demographics for the workforce board. I think we still have a long way to go. I don't think it's just something the board can do or career team can do. I think it's going to take all the providers in the area screaming the same thing. But I do think we've we've still got some hurdles, if that makes sense, but I do think the education. Because if they don't know the veterans are out there, they don't know. And then I guess my question would be why? You know, I mean, can we ask why? Why'd you not look at that candidate? I mean, can we have some candid questions with some of those employers to say, hey, I had 10 veterans I brought in. You know, we gave you these options. Why are we not? Can you tell us? And let's get to the bottom of why we're not, if that makes
We're
sense.
having that exact conversation with an employer as of this morning.
But I think
Ongoing
ongoing,
relationship to an employer has to feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
Us have to.
100% agree.
And they're not gonna do it right.
No, they're not. They're not,
And
but
we
they're
know
gonna
why they're not gonna do it
they
right.
would verbalize stuff. Well, I didn't look at him, or, you know, he,
And we are having those same conversations, and part of that,
Yes.
for us anyway, is our turnover over the last few years. We lost those relationships.
yes,
And we're building those back now, and we are
Yes.
having those conversations. Hey,
Yes.
I keep sending people to you, you keep saying you have these job openings.
yes,
Why are you not even talking to
Yes.
these people?
yes,
And a lot of the feedback we're getting is their HR systems are just overloaded. They're getting thousands of applicants where they're just people clicking, they're not really interested in
Yes.
jobs.
Yes.
You know, and we're building those relationships now, where it's getting back to where, hey, Steve sent me those people, maybe I should talk to these people.
That's where we are at Goodwill. Our coaches are, I mean, she knows their job is to develop relationships with HR people. So that when we have that good candidate, not only can we just send the candidate, but we also send the employer the information to let them know that we are still supporting that candidate. We're gonna hold both hands, not just the candidate's hand, but the employer's hand. So when we're talking about, you know, recovery or reentry folks, when we're sending those candidates, we're also talking to them about the WOTC tax credits for hiring those folks, the benefits that that company will have with not only getting a good employee, but some of the tax credits that the state is providing you for quote unquote, taking a chance on that person. Our biggest thing is developing that relationship with the HR department so that we can have that conversation. Hey, I sent Chad, you didn't hire him, please tell me why, so that we can train them, retrain them, or train them up on what they were missing in that interview, and then we can send them back to you.
And I also think we need to do a better job amongst ourselves of the partner agencies of working together to use our personal contacts. And Jake and Bianca mentioned earlier, 2 of them for 10 counties. So if we can get all of our other different organizations in their same similar positions talking to one another, we can utilize each other's contacts.
And then when they hear
know everybody.
when these employers hear the same message
Right.
from different partner agencies, then they're more likely to reach out to us because we're having a little success with that. But again, if I'm connected with Bianca and Jake, then I feel more employers will reach out to us and ask, hey, how many do you guys have combined?
Right.
That's why I want them in my building.
but I think even, you know, in your position, you know, with the cabinet, those conversations, maybe at the corporate level for those companies that are operating within Kentucky to say, okay, did you know that in South Central we have, you know, a large new American population? We have this. What can we do? Reentry population, et cetera. What can we do to change the policy, the corporate policy for those Kentucky? So we can help you with that, I guess, if that
And
makes
then we're
sense.
trying to have those same conversations within the
Yes.
state, because we have
Yes.
similar hiring
Yes.
problems ourselves.
But even within the state and outside the state at some of the higher levels, I think, but it's definitely
So
a
my
complex.
TJ, my takeaway is that Gretchen has got to get me on the phone with somebody in Japan at the corporate headquarters of Sumitomo.
That is, no, sorry, Gretchen.
That's okay.
So, but
You
I
gotta
do,
learn Japanese real quick, John.
but I do think that it's in some instances, it is good to connect with corporate.
Oh, no, we run,
You know, and
exactly
to
right.
say, hey, you know, I'm the workforce board president down here in South Central Kentucky. You have 3 plants and 3 facilities with Sumitomo in our region. We want to help you fill your workforce needs. What can we do? You know, we have these populations, what can we do? you know, I do think there's some validity to some of that.
No, believe me, we run it, we have companies here, good companies here, whose hands are tied by corporate headquarters that are in other locations.
But it would be going through Gretchen.
Yeah,
Not above Gretchen, but
Yeah.
through Gretchen and your local
Yeah,
contacts.
Gretchen's
to
gonna
work with
teach
some
me
of those.
Japanese. That's,
Yeah, 23 years. I don't have much for you on the Japanese front. But you know, the key, I think, like what you said, is that local group has to want it, because that's how change happens. Is the local group says, look, I think we could be effective. This is a great opportunity, but we need to look at our policies and procedures. So if John just cold calls some corporate person who hasn't had any, you know, has no idea that this is a problem. So I think that's the key. And you mentioned that.
I 100% concur with that, Gretchen.
I always have food analogies for workforce problems and situations, but if you think about the Chick-fil-A model, right? Chick-fil-A has tons of people outside. Like, have you ever gone through a drive-through and seen somebody outside before Chick-fil-A? You never did. Now they don't even have a door where their people come and go when they build new locations. They expect that they're gonna have people running out, and they bring the food to you. And they expect a crowd every day. And when you go, you see a crowd, but you're not scared by it because you know you're getting in quick. But how many of us have that local restaurant that every time you get the drive-through, you just don't know when you're gonna make it through? And it's always that way. And it's like, when are they gonna ever make it any better in the drive-through?
Right.
And they don't even open up the dining room because they don't have enough staff or whatever. And Chick-fil-A, I mean, I'm not really trying to talk about their workforce, but it's just like, I think it's the same thing. If they've positioned themselves, and I think it was Gretchen that said it, but like the infrastructure is there, that they can handle it. And I think but that costs money. They got more than 2 people working the drive-through line. But look at the results, look at the yield that comes from it. So.
I would agree.
okay, well, this was a hearty discussion, and I'm really glad
I'm
for all the
hungry.
feedback. Yeah. But I think, you know, obviously, if anybody has any follow-on thoughts, please either put them in the chat or send them our way. We're open to suggestions. You know, workforce boards are meant to serve employers as well as job seekers, and we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can that, you know, for our employers to have their talent needs met. And so we're open to any suggestions. So we'll move on to the next strategic goal, and I think this is back over to Brian.
Yeah, so I'll run through this one real quick because we've got more updates to tell you than as far as data to report, but you can see we're just scratching the surface with how we've engaged high school students and college or post-secondary students. And our boot camp idea that we'll go into in a moment too is also tied to this, and there's something in the works with it. There's some project-based things that we're assisting some school districts with or serving on committees with, but our Ready, Set, Hire event is really the bulk of where we have a lot of our focus right now. We're also assisting the Bowling Green Chamber with their SEK launch event, which started back when Matt was in his prior role and has maintained that relationship. And so several of us have been, will be getting out and talking to students to prep them ahead of the event and working the event the day of. And then we have our own big event, which now has a name. It didn't have a name, I don't think, the last time we had a board meeting, but I'll turn it over to Leslie, or we'll kind of tag team. I'll be opening some things, but Leslie, let me let you start talking on this one.
Leslie, you're on mute.
Would you like me to share my screen, Brian, or did you?
I
put
got
that
it.
up?
Yeah, do you want me to go ahead and do that?
Yeah, that would be great. This may come as a shock to many of you who naturally would think I'm about 30. But I graduated back in 1987. And the career fairs, job fairs that I went to as a high school senior, they haven't really changed very much. A lot of students walk in with the, hey, I don't have to be in class today mentality. And with this event, we are trying to change that. Very briefly, Whitney Choate, we should definitely recognize her because she got this idea going. She started this concept. So, and it has really evolved very, very quickly.
with Ready, Set, Hire, the mindset, at least on my behalf, is our number one goal is to get students hired. That needs to be the focus. And so if, Brian, if you could scroll down just a little bit, the way this event is set up is that much like Kentucky Vet Connect, students will create profiles in advance, and it will be enough information for employers to see if they're interested in meeting with that student, going further with that student. I know that other organized high school fairs use what's called a common application. And I think, that idea is good. What we are doing is not doing a common application, because we know that if, say, Logan Aluminum wanted to officially interview a student, they would require them to fill out a Logan Aluminum application. With this perspective, it is saving people time, because they're not having to fill out applications if the employer from the get-go says, oh, I'm not really interested. So Brian, if you could scroll back up just a little bit. Employers, well, no, the sample profiles, there you go. Employers will be doing the same thing. We're trying to get employers, when they fill out a form, I'm asking very open-ended questions so that it's more natural language that will come across to high school students. Here's what our company is about. And we're going to do behind the scenes matchmaking. So students know before they get there, here are the employers that you have the highest matches with. And also employers will be able to look at student profiles before the event. This is a sample page I created, and you'll probably need, yeah, there you go. These are sample companies. So, if I wanted to work for Emergency Station 51, I don't know if you all remember that show, but if you could click on that. So a student will be able to see profiles of every employer, and it will say, here's where I have locations, I'm hiring for this kind of position, here's my logo. And we're trying to get as much work done before they walk in the door as possible. We want everyone to be focused. Here's where I'm heading. Here are the employers I'm most interested in. And this is just a different way of going about it. I am trying to make it as efficient as possible, so there isn't a lot of downtime. See, the Love Boat is hiring if you're interested in hospitality and tourism. And this is just a sample page so that school counselors can see this is what the employer profiles will look like. And this has been set up so that, once employers create their profile and they paid, then they're going to get up there. I just started a boosted post or 2 boosted posts for employers late last night. We have 10 employers signed up already, and applications open Monday. So that the response is coming for employers, and I know we'll get more. Our expectation is about 50. Students, I'm going to reach out to school counselors today to encourage them to get students to apply, because as of now, we don't have any student applications. We have 0. So if students are holding off, waiting to see if a certain employer applies, I would just encourage the student to apply, because employers are coming in. So when I get a few more employers, I'll be posting that online for students, but it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But that's the idea. Let's match students as closely as possible before they walk in the door, so they know this is who I need to talk to. We're going to be setting up interviews. You know, how amazing would it be for a high school senior who has no idea what they're going to do as soon as they graduate? How awesome would it be for them to go to this event and actually get a job, have an interview, and walk out saying, I know I've got a job. I now know what I'm going to do after graduation. So that is the focus. We're really trying to make it as efficient as possible, because we want positive outcomes. You know, I want everybody to have a good day and a good time, but my focus is positive outcomes, getting students hired, at least getting them interviews that will hopefully result in them being hired. So, I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Anybody wants to volunteer, right, Leslie?
Yeah, if anybody wants to volunteer, yeah, sure, we'll take them. I need to add a button. And all this, by the way, this is completely generated in-house. There's nothing, as far as I know, there's nothing that exists like this. This is something that we are creating. So I think it is something that eventually, you know, hopefully in the very near future, we can use for other job fairs as well, to help people connect before the event so that they know these are the employers I'd like to see out of who's available. And I think I've hit most of the high points.
May 7th, Cave City.
May
Convention
7th,
Center,
yes.
12 participating high schools, 7 from our region, and then a couple that are from actually outside of our region. Actually, more than 7 from inside of our region, but and again, I mean, Leslie mentioned it. This really kind of Whitney Cho, who's our board member in Hart County. I mean, she suggested this, and then it's just kind of sprung to life very quickly. And Leslie's put tremendous energy into building out a Ready, Set, Hire website to do this level of engagement and matchmaking. You know, the idea is when students walk in, they know they're going to have at least 2 interviews set up based on what they've told us they want in the application process, and they'll still have opportunities to go visit with other employers. And so,
John, I'll speak to this.
We'll see how it goes. Yes, Whitney.
I mean, this was just a harebrained idea, as I would say, and you all have really took it to the next level. There's no way we could have, as high school counselors, have developed something as good as this. I was clicking around and playing around in the student port, like the student part yesterday, and it's really user friendly. So shout out to you all who have kind of took the lead on this, and I appreciate that because I think it is something that is needed. And when we're all kind of working together and pulling together, we can do a lot more. And I appreciate what you all have done on this side of it.
Well, thank you. It is, you know, Whitney, you have started every bit of this. So we appreciate you doing it. It is a need, but it's one of those things that if it's not brought to the forefront, it may not happen immediately. So, this, as soon as this meeting's over, this is what I'm going back to get, to work on this event. But the idea is also to have supplemental activities going, so there's not a lot of downtime between student interviews, and we're still putting those things together. But again, my thought is we have a chance to impact lives. We have a chance to make a difference. we have a chance to do something that nobody has really done before. And this is a very new approach to a hiring event. And I'm very hopeful it will go well. My thought is it will. But, anything that you all are able to do to help, it would be much appreciated. And I mentioned in the chat, I'm composing an email to send out to chambers to encourage them to share. And I'll have Deronda send that to board members as well. If you know of businesses that you could forward that to, I think if we can just get a business to look at the webpage and see how this is set up, I think they're going to get excited because it's different. It's different, and there's a cool factor to it. So
And
that's
we also have the opportunity for a window after the kids leave for the day, because school, they've got to get back and all that close out. We'll keep it open for the public the last couple of hours of the fair. So it will be a regional job fair for the public as well, but it's target audience is the students. But while we've got all the employers together, we're going to keep it open a little, ask them to stay a little longer and let the non-students come in.
I was just gonna correct Whitney. I want to correct her. I don't think it's a harebrained idea at all. I thought it was a pretty clever idea, so I just want to correct that. But I could also see this being really useful for college students as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, with the other uses that Leslie referred to, I can see that being very, very helpful.
Hey, look, this is Rebecca. Man, maybe I just missed it, but did you say like if these businesses that are part of your Ready Set Hire, if someone sees that, did you say there was a link directly to the business's application process, or?
Yes, absolutely. In the email itself, I will send something that's clickable. The website that we're running this from is employword.com, which is a nonprofit associated with the board. And right now, all we have is Ready Set Hire information. So if you go to employword.com, you'll see all of this. But yes, I absolutely will include it in the email and how, draw attention to here's where employers find out about the event and click to apply. Because I think it will be valuable for students. I think it will be incredibly valuable for employers. Because, we're just trying to shake things up with these events. We've been doing sort of the same thing for a long time. So, and here's where we are. So let's try something a little bit different.
Hey, Leslie, I had one question. This is Josh. Hey, I may have missed it, but what role will the schools play in this? Will they be providing transportation if needed or anything like that for students or?
Yes. The school, the participating schools, we in fact have a meeting with them tomorrow. These counselors have been extremely active and involved. And so, yes, they're getting buses scheduled, all of that. We've put in waivers. We've done everything possible. At least I hope so. To make it as user friendly for the counselors, students, and employers.
Okay, if there are no further questions, we're running a little bit behind, so we're gonna move on to the next topic and pick up the pace a little bit. Still want your feedback and comments and questions, don't get me wrong, but we got a few more things to get through. So next one we want to highlight is we are getting ready to run and pilot a work ready boot camp. This has kind of been an idea that we've had for several years. And when we applied for and received some grant funding, it's called a Quest grant, back in December, we kind of set to work as a team to see if we could bring this idea of a boot camp to life. And so what we've done, we've done a lot of planning for it, and we've got, we've got the pilot pretty much set and ready to go. There's a few more details we're wrapping up, but the idea is we're going to run a 5-day boot camp that's going to give participants, in this case, it's going to be youth, soft skills training from Goodwill, financial literacy training from the Kentucky Financial Empowerment Commission, and OSHA 10. We're bringing in an OSHA 10 trainer, and then first aid, CPR, and AED. So over the course of 5 days, the folks going through this are going to get several certifications and training on soft skills and financial literacy. This boot camp runs April 22nd to 26th, and it's going to be at the Great Onyx Job Corps site. They've graciously agreed to host. It's going to include a mix of Job Corps students, Hart County students, and we believe a couple of Edmonson County students. I'm still working through that. So we're really excited to offer this. And again, it'll be the first time we're going to pilot it. So basically we're just the organizers. We've subcontracted out the different pieces for the curriculum. Once we get through this with the students, and we hope to be able to run this kind of thing a couple of times a year for our youth. We're going to want to turn around and work on one that we can offer to folks that are either in recovery centers or incarcerated. So we'll be kind of turning to that audience next and offering it again down the road. So, but we've got this Quest grant money for 3 years, and so the idea is that let's see how these boot camps go. And the other aspect of this is that we're also recruiting employers that want to come in and have access to these folks and to be able to hire them, folks with these certifications. These are pretty general certifications, but they're low cost, they're low cost and quick certifications that just give somebody an edge. They give somebody at least a certification. It might not give them it doesn't give them maybe the work experience that you're looking for, but it's somebody that's gone through and a work ready process. So we'll keep the board updated on how this goes.
Yeah, what I'll say real quick is that if you're an employer or you're in front of employers, you will help us be an extension of us to ask, would this make a difference? So that's our question. Would somebody who otherwise maybe doesn't meet muster, if they've gotten this, would it put them in a better position? And if the answer is yes, we want to talk to them.
Now that's a good point. And we did run a survey with employers of asking this, and not that we got a huge number of responses, but the responses we got back were like, yeah, this sounds great. So we think we're on the right track with it, but of course, employers are the ultimate decider on if they value this or not. All right.
John, let me speak to that for a moment to let you all know that not only is Great Onyx excited about this, Department of Labor is also.
Great.
All right. Thank you, Beverly. I need employers to be excited about it as well.
All right, I'm gonna run as fast as I can through strategic goal 3, but this covers the full-time work of so many staff, and there's so much effort going in. I don't want to do it, not do them justice, but you can see here our engagement events across the different focus populations that we are involved with. And so we've added Quest into this. We'll be adding it as well we've got it in with the college or post-secondary student type of thing, and high school, because that's where we're going to be doing the one, as John mentioned, is youth. But you can see the engagements we've had, the number of folks that are getting career services, and the number of direct referrals that we're attempting to do for the employer. So you can see that number we showed earlier of through job fairs and just individual assists, how many are getting referred to employers. You can see some of those numbers reflected here in placements, as well as we know as well. The REAP grant, that was the one earlier that Laura is doing with the employer engagements with refugee populations. We need to still get a group, get cohorts going for that. The Your Turn internship opportunity, we've got one placed at Bowling Green.
It's
scheduled. Okay. And then one's in the works. And then you can see where we're talking about these boot camp sessions. And Putting Kentuckians first, that's Michael Updegraff, and this is our collaboration. It's more of a statewide collaboration with Kentucky Adult Ed. They've had a lot of different engagement events, but this is the evolution of what Aaron Pointer was doing with getting in front of a lot of different stakeholders and partners to try to reach the reentry recovery population. And he's primarily, Michael, instead of doing direct service to job seekers, getting those referred over to Mike Carter's arm here with the Career Development Office. And so you can see different initiatives and activities that are getting turned on throughout the counties and jails there. Just contact us if you have any questions on that, but this will become more of a focus in a future board meeting that will go into more heavy emphasis on this. The newest grant opportunity that we have is called a Refugee Vocational Training Grant. We'll say this, like our focus population is new Americans, not refugees by themselves, but the funding seems to be a lot tied to refugees. And so we're just doing, and we're seeing refugees. A lot of the new Americans that we see are refugee status, but there was a grant opportunity available just to Warren County kind of service providers, and nobody else really in the service provider community wanted to write for it, but they wanted to support for it. And so we were kind of pegged as the ones that were going to do it. We got it. It's going to turn on these types of things. It's only an 18-month grant. It has the potential to go longer. We're currently trying to hire for a full-time person. I would love if you speak Spanish or Swahili, if you would apply, because that's going to be the bulk of the candidates and people that are going to qualify. But this is going to be modeled very much after the WIOA things that happen every day down at the Career Center and what Career Team does, trying to screen folks and support them, but to get them plugged into some training opportunities. What it will do to complement what WIOA does is that it will have a scholarship bank, basically an account to help for CDL training. Since some of the other trainings can be offset by Work Ready Kentucky scholarships that are statewide available to folks. We'll also be trying to connect people to Job Corps. So there's been increased interest in Job Corps. They've had success recruiting from this pocket. So we'll be trying to facilitate that through field trips. We'll also have and be able to turn on a specific ESL class and working with some other refugee and immigrant service providers to complement this grant. So it's a pretty big grant amount. It's a lot of money to spend down. A lot of that is that scholarship amount and the costs for a full-time person to help us get out and recruit folks for this. So we're excited about it. Our target audience will likely be youth, but if anybody's got the skills and the ability now, we just want to bend their ear to what these opportunities can provide and opportunities that can open up for them. And then, yeah, that takes care of strategic goal 3. We'll jump into 4.
Okay, all right. Just looking at the key performance indicators, we've already met the first goal. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about financial sustainability in a moment. Fiscal compliance, that's the audit that'll happen later this year. Once we select an auditor. Programmatic compliance, that's where the state comes in and looks at what we're doing. That audit has already taken place. We're actually going to get debriefed this afternoon. I anticipate we're going to have good feedback on that. If it were bad feedback, they would have signaled something already. So I think it's a formality, and I expect that we'll have a good, clean audit from the state. Okay, and then let me see what else. I think I'm going to move on from here in the interest of time. So everybody, I think, has received an invitation to a tour of the Kentucky Career Center. I had set this out as one of the goals that we had for the year. We have not offered tours to our board members or judge executives or any other stakeholders. We haven't hosted anything like that in a number of years, and it just kind of occurred to me like this is way overdue. So we're going to do 2 this year. Because we have some board turnover and some transition, we wanted to do one before June and one after June. So the first one will be May 14th. A lot of you have already RSVP'd. We're excited to have you. We want to bring you down there, just show you. We talk about the Kentucky Career Center. We talk about Career Development Office. We talk about Career Team. Going down there and seeing what that actually is, who those people are and what they do will, I think, be very informative for you and probably help you make sense of some of the things we talk about in this forum. The idea is to do it in 1 hour and run you through there. So looking forward to hosting everybody on May 14th. And if you can't do that one, then again, we're going to run it again on August 20th. Okay, I want to just talk money. That's, I can't help myself. I mean, I feel like that's one of the main roles of my position is to make sure that this organization is in has sound financial footing and that we can continue to deliver the array of services that we do. So let's go forward one. We have received our WIOA planning numbers for the coming year. I don't want to this is going to be a little bit busy and I'm not going to get into all these numbers, but the good news is last year, when we got our planning numbers, we had received a 9% decrease in funding, and that was very alarming. That was quite a dip for us. And we were worried. I was really worried about that happening again. The good news is, we actually got some of that money back. We actually got a 6% increase, about $78,000 extra dollars. So my hope was that we could hold with what we had last year and not lose any, and we actually got a little bit of that back. And so go forward, build one more, Brian, and then just, again, when you look at for FY24, the 1.4 million that we're going to receive, below that is how that'll break out, what the board will get, what career team will get, and how we'll divvy that money out. And this is just WIOA. It doesn't include any of these other grant monies that we've alluded to previously. Let's move forward. Okay, putting Kentuckians first. Brian mentioned this a minute ago. Putting Kentuckians first is a Kentucky Adult Ed initiative, but they're running, the way they're running that, the way they're staffing that is through a contract with us. We entered into a contract with them last year for $275,000. Basically, that allowed Kentucky Adult Ed to hire 3 staff, Michael Updegraff being one of the 3. And technically, because we're getting that grant, it's running through us. The Michael Updegraff and the other 2 are they're on our payroll, but they're reporting to Kentucky Adult Ed, putting Kentuckians first folks. Out of that 275, because we're administering this contract, we're able to peel off around $35,000 in some, to cover some administrative costs and things like that. So that's just, additional dollars that we can tap into. The conversation that's going on right now, and this is by no means a done deal, but the conversation right now is that Kentucky Adult Ed at a minimum wants to renew at the same rate, $275,000 for their 3 people, but that what's been proposed and what's going through an approval process right now is actually an expansion of the program, which, the contract may bump up to $500,000 or a little bit more. That would allow Kentucky Adult Ed, allow the Putting Kentuckians First program to actually hire 2 more people. So if that contract value jumps up, then administratively, what we're going to be able to kind of peel off for administering that contract will be in the $50,000 to $55,000 range. And that's just, every dollar we get like that is money that helps us offset WIOA. WIOA kind of fluctuates up and down. It's important for us to have, other grants and other contracts and other ways of pulling in monies to help offset the kind of fluctuation that happens with WIOA. I believe there'll be a decision here next week, and we'll know where that is. And either way, I am open to renewing that contract. And the other part of it is there's discussion about it being a multi-year contract, not just a single-year contract. So we'll see where that goes. Okay, let's go forward. So what I want to do here is just a graphic, like put some of this together, right? I just want to show like what all the different funding streams look like as of today. And around the edges are kind of like some of these things are these monies, they cross calendar years, but if you that box on the outside kind of wraps up the calendar year, but you can see kind of what we're managing right now in terms of WIOA and Tornado, and we have an electric vehicle navigator grant and a Quest grant. We've got 2 refugee grants. And those are multi-year grants, but the amount of money that would be managed inside the calendar year, for the REAP grants, about $110,000, for the refugee vocational grants, about $180,000. We've got local government funding from Bowling Green and Warren County for Michael Daly's position at Fort Campbell, plus they're helping fund Anna's position. The Putting Kentuckians First contract, that graphic shows that it kind of running through the end of June. So our budget wise, we're in the $2.9 million range, and that my numbers are just slightly off from what Hollid showed you in the financial report, because mine are just kind of ballpark figures as opposed to precise. Go forward one, Brian. So if we get that Putting Kentuckians First contract extension and that higher amount, and if we get the state to provide funding for disconnected youth, that's going to bring us up to, we're managing around $3.2 million. So that's, anyway, I just wanted to paint a picture on all the different types of money that we're managing, the grants and contracts and so forth. Let's go forward one, Brian. So what's the takeaway from all this? So one is our funding is fluid. These monies don't all come in at the same time. They kind of, my challenge is I have to go to all of our judge executives and present a budget based on a snapshot in time. And you can ask me on Monday what the budget is, and by Friday it looks a little bit different. I mean, but it's just it's always fluid. But as an organization, we have been trying to diversify funding and get at this really for the last few years. And very fortunately, it is really since last July, we've done very well. We've come into 4 new grants. We've gotten some additional local funding. And when you just look at it, like that's for calendar year 24, it's given us over $600,000 additional dollars to manage. Now, a lot of that money is passed through. But again, we get to peel off parts of that money for administration. And we're using some of it to offset salaries. We're using some of it to help offset our rent, supplies, marketing and outreach. And again, this just kind of helps us, it just protects us as we deal with the fluctuations of WIOA. Since last July, we've been able to offset approximately $100,000 in salaries and rent and other costs. That's $100,000 less WIOA that we've depended upon. That's, that helps, that puts more money back into the system for participants. And that's the goal. When I started, I would say in the CEO role, I would say we were probably 98 or 99% WIOA. Today we're still probably 88% reliant on WIOA, but we're chipping away at it. And the long-term goal is to make WIOA just one of many funding sources that we're managing. And again, it's all about sustaining the work we're doing. Any comments, questions, concerns? Okay. Leslie, I can take this. You can take. This is kind of the public comment, open question discussion period.
Yes, and we will keep this brief, but I would just like to ask the way I always start this, and what are you thinking after this meeting, all this information that has been presented, what stands out the most? What are you most interested in? What do you have questions about? This would be very helpful information to us.
I will jump in with just a couple of comments, and that is, I very much appreciate that we're data driven. We're using the data to help make decisions on where we invest and where we put the money. Certainly what John went over with diversifying the funding and how we, get the money is complements to that process and how it's making some gains. I would also like to say that there's just a lot of good work going on, and it's very evident that it's there's a heartfelt component to it that is as an employer to know that we have such good, committed people working on these workforce issues. I very much appreciate.
Thank you so much, Teresa.
Yes.
Anybody else? Anything you have thoughts on, want to know more about, anything at all. We want to make sure that we're getting the right information to you and, helping you see the bigger picture of what we're doing.
Once, going twice.
I guess everybody loves it. I will take that as everybody loves everything that was said. All right.
Everybody loves everybody.
Oh, Amy's got something. Don't let it be bad, Amy.
Oh, no. I'm always positive. Well, except for this whole basketball ordeal with Coach Cal, but that's okay. But anyway, chamber luncheons are a big thing here in Butler County. So if anyone wants to come to our chamber luncheon on April 25th with me as my guest to talk about the Ready, Set, Hire, or everything that's going on, the website or whatever, or you can come in May. Anytime you want to come to one of our chamber luncheons, they're a big success here in Butler County. And there's a lot of people and a lot of businesses that come to those. Bianca has been with me to a couple of those and spoke. She actually was with me at the last one and spoke. So feel free to reach out, email me if you want to come and speak at one of our chamber luncheons, or if you want to be on our local radio station. I'm friends with the people that own that, and they do what's called Out on a Limb every morning. And they love having guest speakers in the mornings from 7 to 7:30. So, and just let me know about that. I can get you on the air as well. So just some networking things.
Yes, and we appreciate those very, very much. Absolutely.
So, all right, thank you, Amy. All right, now, is it going fourth, going fifth?
If you want to talk about, just the.
Yeah, so, next board meeting is June 13th. We really would like to have you in person. We have quite a few board members this will be their last board member before they rotate off. They are reaching the final board meeting of 3 terms of service. So we're going to be recognizing those folks that have served 9 years, volunteered 9 years of service to this board. They were here in some very troubled times early on, and they've kind of witnessed the transformation of one workforce board to where we are today. And so anyway, we would love to have as many of you here in person. We owe you TBD on the location, but it'll be somewhere nearby. But we'd love to have you in person to help recognize the folks that have served so well and honorably over the last 9 years. They've really provided the leadership and stewardship we've needed to transform this organization. So more information, but it'll be available by Zoom, but we really want to see you in person. All right.
Hey,
Thank
John,
you
I
all
forgot
very
to give a
much.
shout out to Jake too. Jake, thank you for coming to our chamber luncheon as well. I forgot about Jake, sorry.
Inconspicuous.
That's right. That's right. Thank you all for attending today and for the great discussion once again. If there's no further business, we are now adjourned. Thank you.